everyone, I'm Nancy Crawshaw from the Extension team at Angus Australia. Welcome to 2024 and our third episode of Paddock Talk. We're again delighted to be joined by Simon Quilty from Global AgriTrends, as well as Stephanie Jacobs from the Bureau of Meteorology. Our special guest for this episode will be the CEO of Angus Australia, Scott Wright. He's going to be giving us an update about what our members can look forward to in the year ahead as we prepare for the World Angus Forum in 2025. We've had a great start to the year with another successful roundup in Tamworth, so thank you to all our volunteers and members who helped at the event to make this happen. This is great to nurture the next generation of Angus breeders and teach them more about our great industry. We've also been lucky to get across to Western Australia, South Australia and Victoria to catch up with members and see some great lines of bulls on display. We wish everyone well for the upcoming autumn selling season and we hope the bull sales go well. And without further ado, we'll get stuck into it. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Paddock Talk.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Paddock to Plate Market Update, the February edition. My name's Simon Quilty and I'm from Global AgriTrends. So we've had a good bounce in cattle prices of the last 3 months since the lows of late October, November. The ECI, we've seen dramatic falls over the last 2 years or so, 70%, but a 90% rebound with today closing at around 675. So who's the participants? Well, restockers today are making up 34% of the market, 58% is from feedlot operators and processors 7%. I think it's important to say here that both restockers and breeders are paying, I think, a lot of attention to this market and are important drivers. When we look at Angus feeders versus flatbacks, today we're sitting at about 390 on Angus feeders and 380 on flatbacks. But what's extraordinary is if we cast our minds back to that January 2022, we saw the height of the market at 670 on Angus feeders, but a 90-cent spread between flatbacks and Angus feeders. And today that sits at a 10 cents a kilo spread. So much of today's market is driven by rain, restocker activity, and green fever. But that's not enough. These prices are not sustainable if we don't get global demand. And global demand has been appalling. So if we're going to revisit those 670s that we saw back in January 2022, we need global demand to start to pick up because it has not been good. So let's reflect over the last 2 years. We've had global beef prices fall 17%. It actually went lower and then rebounded slightly, but overall we're down over that 2 years. And you can see that it's been challenging. Just the latest figures from FAO show us that. When we look at market by market, and let's look at our role here, we are filling the void of the tightening of USA. But that's not enough because we had oversupply issues and we had market issues last year, and they continue today as we speak. So you can see here on the left that exports into Korea fell out of America by 18% last year for the year. We were up 18%. But when you look at our pricing, our export values, into Korea, we fell 18% and America fell only 6%, meaning we are discounting product into that market and did so last year. If we look at all the other markets, it's a similar story. So with China, we were up 30% on volume, filling that 20% decline out of America. But if you go to the right, you can see our prices fell 18% over the year and America fell 4%. We had too much product and these markets were challenged, their economies, but also their ability to buy. The same holds for Japan, where we saw exports fall 22% out of America. We fell 4%. Now, it's a difficult market, and there's no doubt pork and chicken are playing a crucial role here. But pricing out of Australia fell 11%, and we saw America fall only 3%. And the last one is global other markets. And we were up 49% globally, enormous, and the US down 6%. And yet our prices fell globally 18% and America down 1%. Meaning we have had challenges, to say the least. So what do we need? We need these markets to turn around. And last week, we got the US cattle inventories that reached a 73-year low. These were crucial numbers because, as you can see, in all these markets, America competes with us head on. And as soon as their supply starts to tighten, we are going to be the beneficiaries of that. So these low inventories have telecast to the world that US supply is starting to tighten and will get even tighter. So it's a strong signal to our markets, and it's what we need. When we look at that CME live cattle forward curve, you can see that in April, the prices jumped to 4% on that forward curve. If we go to April next year, it's up a whopping 9%. What this tells us is the market is expecting April, when the void, you might say, starts to really come to fruition. So to me, the beginning of the tightening that we're expecting is going to be April, May. And it will build momentum through 2025. So let's talk about then the green shoots that now are appearing for demand. And Japan's inventories are getting lower. So we've seen huge inventories right across Asia. But the good news is that Japan, and you can see these whopping great increases in inventories, but if we home in on the last 12 months or so, the good news is that we've had this extraordinary decline here from the record levels of 165,000 metric tons to now down to a level of close to 129,826. This is good news for Japan because it means supply is starting to tighten and demand is improving. So therefore, to me, this is a great sign for a 100-day short Fed, which Angus is a huge part of. So there's the first key sign that green shoots are appearing. Secondly, we're now seeing China's middle class switching to Australian grass-fed chilled. This is a really important development. So over the last few years, we've seen the US dominate this market with frozen grain-fed, but you can see here that in the last 12 months or so, as tightening occurs in America, that grain-fed demand or that ability to supply has got more difficult. And lo and behold, there in the green, Australian grass-fed has stepped up. This is good news. Also, Australian grain-fed frozen plays a critical role there as well in the blue. But the point being is that we've seen Australian grass-fed now be the dominant player in filling the void. And this tells us that the Chinese middle class, that middle tier, is struggling in the sense of looking for value for money, and grass-fed chilled is supplying that. And the clear indicator here is that we've seen that chilled grass-fed exports into China grow fourfold in the last year, 2023 compared to 2022. This is a great sign. An important part of that grass-fed chilled, once again, Angus supplies the quality genetics for that to occur. So to me, all these are good signs for the Angus demand. And then if we go to the elite class within China, we're seeing that prime, and which competes directly with Wagyu and long-fed Angus, is also starting to look promising. But let's not forget about the huge record beef inventory in China itself. But to me, this is being held or bought by the lower middle class, and it's dominated by South American beef, it's dominated by mutton, by chicken, and by pork. So for Angus, it is not the end of the market that they're involved in. It's the elite end. And we can see here that with US pricing of that prime product of grain-fed you could see in the last 6 months has been on the rise, while frozen grain-fed out of America has gone sideways. So to me, Australia sits in a unique position, and in particular, Wagyu and high-end quality Angus programs, long-fed, to fill that void. And you can see on the right here, it's about 12% of total volume going to China out of America that services that quality prime end that I think the Angus can play a critical role in. So once again, we're seeing the elite class, that unique part of the market that we are going to be an important part of. And once again, this is both Wagyu and Angus that is going to play a crucial role as we move forward. Lastly, we've got US demand. And with tightening supply, both choice and prime is going to tighten. And to me, we're going to see this year a slight dip between now and early April, as it normally does with prime. But as we get into the summer months, we're going to get a seasonal lift, probably close to almost 20%. And to me, that will help move or take both Australian Angus and Wagyu higher, not just within America, but we're talking around the world as well as prices lift. So here, in conclusion, is that suppliers are tightening on quality beef globally. I'm expecting this as a transition year, 2024, but I think that we'll see the peak in August, and I think then we'll probably go sideways for the balance of the year. But to me, it's all about 2025. Green shoots are pointing to better demand. So transition year, but 2025, 26 is when prices will move dramatically higher. Expect by the end of 2025, another 50% on today's prices. That's how confident I am. So that is December 2025. But this year, I'm expecting another 20% increase in pricing by about July, August from today. So to me, all roads lead to Angus to meet these market needs across the world. With that, I'd like to say thanks for joining me today.
Welcome to the Bureau's long-range forecast for February to April 2024. First, we'll look at recent conditions, including the range of extreme weather. Most of the country had above average rainfall in January to date, with more likely this month, especially with Tropical Cyclone Kirrily forecast to impact the Queensland coast. Widespread storms brought heavy rainfall, damaging winds and flooding in parts of the east. The monsoon arrived in our tropical north, bringing flooding and setting new rainfall records, including the Northern Territory's Victoria River region. Australia is on track to be in the top 5 warmest on record for January. Temperatures were above average across large areas, especially Western Australia, where the fire risk continues. The state had significant fires in January, including in areas north of Perth. Widespread heat waves persisted in January, with most of Australia experiencing heatwave conditions at times. Large parts of Western Australia had heat waves that were severe or extreme. Current soil moisture is above average in many areas and reflects the monsoonal rains in the north. Soils remain drier than average in parts of the west and southern Tasmania. Australia's total water storage volume is around 75%. The Murray-Darling Basin is around 85% full, which is 13% less than the same time last year. Storages on the southwest coast of Western Australia are around 45% full, which is an 11% decrease on last year. So, looking ahead at the long-range forecast for February to April, the forecast shows a high chance of below-average rainfall for much of the northern half of Australia, extending into some parts of the west and central areas. However, we are in the northern wet season, so many of these areas typically have high rainfall at this time of year. The strongest dry signal is for February. There's not a consistent wet or dry signal for other areas. Their typical range of rainfall for this time of year may be the best guide. Normal to high stream flow is likely for most forecast locations between January and March. The long-range forecast shows days and nights are very likely to be warmer than usual for most of Australia between February and April. Most areas have an increased chance of unusually warm days. Large areas also have a high chance of unusually warm nights, especially across the far north. So let's look at some of our main climate drivers. El Niño is easing in the Pacific Ocean and has less impact on Australia's rainfall at this time of year. The positive Indian Ocean dipole is also weakening and near its end. Recent record high sea surface temperatures globally have an impact on our climate. Oceans are forecast to continue to be warmer than average over the coming months, especially around Australia. Our long-range forecasts are updated daily for the weeks ahead. Stay up to date with the latest forecasts on our website. In summary, the February to April forecast shows reduced rainfall across the north and parts of the west and central areas, warm days and nights, risk of heat waves and bushfires, risk of storms and flash flooding, and the tropical cyclone risk remains. You can find more about the long-range forecast on the Bureau's website. Bye for now.
Yeah, hello, I'm Scott Wright, the CEO at Angus Australia, and just giving you a bit of an update on where we've been last year and where we're going in 2024 going forward. So today I'm in Christchurch to meet with the Angus Pro members, one of our good affiliated groups, and they've got their AGM today, which is pretty exciting. At the end of last year, we had quite a bit. Really, 23 was a big year. We launched our 5-year strategic plan. Going forward, we started on a number of big projects. We recommenced our conferences at Tamworth, which was great to see the whole Angus family connect again together. And we're looking forward to going forward having more annual catch-ups and conferences, whether that be a 2-day event or whether this year it'll be a 1-day event in Albury on the 22nd of May with an AGM and a producer workshop. But we're looking forward to seeing the Angus family come together more often. Last year we went to the World Angus Secretariat in the Czech Republic. Erica and myself attended that, which was great, and 23 Angus producing countries came together, and there's a whole range of projects coming up with regards to that, especially the World Angus Forum in 2025, but particularly coming out of that with the launch of the World Angus Evaluation. So I hope many of you have had a look at that website and a link. And I would like to thank particularly our partners at American Angus. We've got a great working relationship with them. Also Canadian Angus, and all of our members can look at sires that are got 5 progeny recorded on that portal. So I encourage you to go to the website and have a look at that link. We had a number of things like the taste enhancements at the end of last year, and we started our Bred Well, Fed Well collaboration with MLA, and we've got 2 of our staff, Jake Phillips and Nancy Crawshaw, accredited to run those workshops. So they're a great addition to what we're doing at Angus Australia. 2024 started off really well in Tamworth with our roundup. So congratulations to the organising committee for organising that. It was great to see so many members attend, even in those warm conditions at Tamworth. But it's a great way for young people to be introduced to the breed. This year, the major planning program going forward is for the World Angus Forum to be held in May 2025, and I'd encourage all members to have it in their calendar and look forward to that next year. We've been doing a lot of planning, and it's a nice dovetail with the World Angus Evaluation. So for the first time, Australian genetics are positioned really well on a worldwide stage. When we attended the American Angus Convention in November last year in Orlando, there was a lot of questions about Australian genetics. A lot of European producers were very interested in Australian genetics in the Czech Republic. So the timing is right to be able to compare genetics around the world with what we're doing in Australia. And I think there are really some great export opportunities coming up in 25. Part of that program of working towards that is we'll be running a series of export readiness seminars this year. So look out for those. There'll be one in the north of New South Wales, there'll be one in central New South Wales, and there'll be one at our AGM in Albury in May. we've been partnering with Invest New South Wales to produce those export readiness workshops. So I'd encourage you, if you've got any thought to exporting semen or embryos, to get along to one of those workshops. We have this year coming up the opportunity to be part of a member directory that will go out to all the delegates at the World Angus Forum. We're hoping to get 1,000 people at our World Forum in 2025. But when you see the invitations for that to become involved, please take out an ad in that, and it's a way that you can connect with international buyers as they visit Australia in 2025. We have 2 conferences at which we'll be promoting the Angus breed. Next month we'll be at the Northern Territory Cattlemen's Association conference in Alice Springs, and that is a good market for particularly bulls from Southern Australia into that environment. So we'll be meeting quite a few producers there that use Angus genetics in that environment. Also, as always, we put a lot of money into Beef Australia, and that'll be in May. We encourage members to come and participate in that. Queensland Angus have attended that. We'll have a large presence, and we'll have our seminar there about how to use Angus genetics in that northern or central Queensland environment. So it's a big thing going on this year. We have our very popular Gen Angus program coming up again in May this year. In fact, this year it'll be in Christchurch in New Zealand. We had about 40 applicants for about 10 positions, so it's oversubscribed. So already I apologise for those people that won't be able to attend, but please keep applying in the future. The quality of the applications was amazing. We also will have 2 New Zealand attendees from New Zealand Angus, and that really looks like being a great event. In fact, this is where we're filming this morning. Nancy Crawshaw and myself are looking at the venue and making those plans, so looking forward to that. We've got some beef on dairy research going on this year, so how do we use Angus genetics, and that's part of the strategic plan. Where can we fit Angus genetics into each beef production system? So that's our vision, beef for every system, and Christian Duff is doing a lot of work in that space. We have a big project going on this year. We've engaged the CSIRO, who we're long-term partners with, to create discovery DNA software. A lot of people are multi-site joining large groups of animals, and it's very difficult to be able to find parentage sometimes on animals. So it's a big project. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be able to scan the entire database to find size and dams on animals that may not have parentage established. So that's a really big project. Pleased to announce that our new Angus Tech software is almost ready. So we're just waiting on a fair bit of testing doing there, but that's been a 7-year deep project. So thanks to our IT programmers there. And while it might be not highly visible to members, over time it will become more and more visible, but it's a great asset for Angus Australia going forward. We are looking at bringing in this year external quality certification. So it's probably a behind the scenes project, but it's one where hopefully through the course of this year, next year, we'll be able to have better quality assurance in the office, so that all the work and jobs that we do for members will be done to a high standard, and you can have assurance that when you submit data, when you submit records, everything will be done to the highest standard. I did mention that we have our AGM in May. As always, it's great to have as many people that attend that as possible. That'll be in Albury, so it's a pretty central location. We've had a conference there in the past, and it's a good place for a lot of our members to attend from New South Wales and Victoria, and certainly further afield. So please look out for that one. We've got coming up also some ways for members to be more involved with the society. So there's 3 consultative groups that are being advertised for. So our Northern Development Consultative Committee, our ASBP Consultative Committee, and our Genetic Improvement Consultative Committee. If you've got an interest in any of those areas, I'd really encourage you to apply, put an application in. Again, it's probably going to be oversubscribed, but please put your name forward. We really value the interaction that we have with our members, and that information certainly gets taken back to board committees, and it helps us make better plans going forward. At some point this year, you'll see probably one of those projects will again go through a review of our inventory model as part of just good diligence to make sure that how we're billing services to members is the best way going forward. So any feedback in regards to that, please send that to myself. And finally, last but not least, we have 4 new staff that have started at Angus Australia this year, so we're very excited about that. We've got Georgia Daly, who started in member services, really great young girl who's come on board and very enthusiastic, so many of you will interact with her through member services. We have Christine Kirkman, and she's began with our accounts team working under Elliot Connors, so great addition to the team there, and they're a bit stretched with resources towards the end of 23, so it'll be great. Christine will be a great assistance to Elliot. We've got Hanley Jensen, who's commenced work with us as an extension officer. She'll be based at Gundawindi in Queensland, and she'll be a great team member alongside Jake and Nancy doing some of the field work, so quite often you might see her out and about at member workshops. And finally, we've brought on Mel Strasberg. Some of you may well have interacted with Mel from Neogen in the past, but Mel is coming on board with our World Angus Forum planning team, and also an assistant to myself. So she brings a lot of experience to the organisation and will be a great asset through 24 and 25 as we start to do some quite large planning going forward. So look, a lot of information there. We're doing lots. I'd just like to thank all the members for reaching out to me. As you do, I always find that enjoyable and it's good feedback. And I'd just like to thank all the staff at Angus Australia for their hard work and in advance for the hard work that will happen this year. But looking forward to meeting many of you through the course of 2024. I know there's a lot to digest in this little video, but looking forward to rolling out a lot of new programs. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Paddock Talk. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any topics or speakers you'd like to see us include in Paddock Talk, please feel free to reach out through my contact details below. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.